See everybody, they know.
Should I lease? Well, here we go. We're going to get into the pros and the cons of leasing as well. We can always start off with the pros. We know if we lease that we're going to be into a long-term situation. That lease could be 18 to 36 months. Not only if we lease, we also going to get a variance in miles. Whenever you rent, they typically give you the miles for what they're charging for that month, or what the mile range is going for, maybe for the last 6 months to a year. But whenever you lease, it's typically a variance in there. They'll typically drop that mile marker by 10 to 12 cents. Now, I myself, I was able to get a lease charge for 8 cents a mile. And during the time frame I got it, I believe, it was a high demand. And the company at the time were barely getting out trucks to lease because it was such a high demand. And we were able to secure one after about 4 or 5 months. So whenever you guys are asking the question, is waiting, how long should you wait? 2 weeks to a month to 3 months? It could vary for whenever those companies have something available. But when we get into more of the pros, we start to say, well, when we sign the contract for leasing, one of the things you want to think about is we typically take the leasing contract because it's no maintenance charge to us. The only maintenance that you typically see is due to tires and body work. So if anything happens from tires and body damage, then you're responsible for a fee that could potentially shut you down, and you're going to have to get yourself back rolling. And so what the leasing company is going to say that we're not responsible for any body damage, which is solely understandable. But when we go from the engine side of it, they will take the unit into the service shop, they will service it, and then they'll give you another unit for you to be able to drive. At least that's what they say. Okay, so we've knocked out all the pros to being able to get yourself a really good lease. That's towing, that's maintenance, that's a fixed monthly cost, that's long term, and we know that the mile has a variance. But let's get into the con of it all. And this is the con for whether it's renting and leasing. So they both have the same con. But on the renting side, the con is just a little bit safer for you guys coming in as a small business owner. You're just establishing yourself, and you want to be able to get a good footstep into this industry and not be in a loss. You guys want to be in a green, and you guys, if not in a green, you guys want to be able to make a surplus every month so you guys are not falling into a loss. So let me break this down to you where the leasing has the worst con of it all. Okay, whenever we lease, understand this, your bill is prorated to the end of the month. Your miles are prorated to the end of the month. So what we have done is we've given the leasing companies, the Ryders, budget, the enterprise, but specifically Ryder, we've given those individuals a fixed cost to estimate what we're going to run by the end of the month. And so what the leasing company is going to say is that, they're going to manage your account and you have an account manager. But if we have these things, we actually shouldn't be telling them what's going on. They should be telling us what they're going to do for us. In terms of leasing, you're probably more responsible for managing that account than the account managers that's going to be overseeing the bill. So please understand, here's the worst part of the leasing situation. Take this situation. Okay. It says that we have, if any engine is damaged, if any engine failure is done to the unit, we're going to replace you with another unit. That's why we signed the contract. But here's where's the dominoes fall, guys. We take the unit there, we take it to the shop. Business is going good. We're making $5,000 to $7,000 a week. And we take that unit in, and they said, well, look, because you didn't have any body damage, we're going to service your unit solely for free because that's what the contract says. But we, as a customer, said, well, since we signed that contract, will we be able to get us another unit so we can start driving? That's a good question because that's why we did it. But when their response to you is we don't have any, what does that do for your business? Because if they can't give you one and you signed a contract for one, essentially what you're going to do is still be responsible for a bill at the end of the month because it's prorated. So now when you sign that lease contract, be fully aware of what you're signing. Because if it's no language in the contract saying we'll give a courtesy because we have your unit, you're paying for it, but you're not able to drive it or we're not able to replace it, then we have a different type of language. But when the leasing contract says you have to pay your bill, even if it's in the shop and there's no courtesy, that becomes predatory. So for a small business, just coming in from a small business perspective, you don't need to be in a predatory situation. You need to be able to get yourself out of that situation, retain enough capital, and start to be able to, I guess, go on more to the purchasing side. And when you purchase, a lot of people not being aware of, don't have so much anxiety about purchasing because there's plenty extended warranties out there. I want to congratulate some of the individuals who made steps in just working with me one-on-one. You guys know who you are. Antonio Goforth, Isaac GK, you know what I mean? Excuse me, GK Okafor, that's his name. Isaac is his father. That's what coming in on the call ID. But, I want to give those guys a big shout out, and to everybody that came on to the ACOM team to be able to learn what process we're doing to establish ourselves, as a small business that's going to run and tell people how to run business and how to establish yourself in this industry without making the worst mistakes possible. So that's what we're doing. Big shout out to everybody that came onto the team. We got Hassan, we got Timothy, Ross, we got BJ, Aisha, shout out to Brad, shout out to Victor, shout out to Kevin, shout out to Ronald, shout out to everybody, shout out to the overseas team, Bravo. Shout out to all those guys that's working hard with us so we don't put people in a bad situation. So in the situation that they are leasing and renting, we're doing our jobs to be able to get them the finance to be able to cover themselves on a weekly basis. That's what we're doing. ACOM is doing everything they can to give all the right information to tell people this is the industry to cross over into if you're willing to get into transportation, if you're willing to manage individuals and be, a good steward to those individuals, you'll do well. So, that's my take on leasing. That's my take on purchasing. Well, not just purchasing, but that's my take on renting. We know if we purchase, at the end of the day, that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But if you guys get ready to purchase, just know it puts your company with the capital. It gives your company the equity that it needs to be able to establish itself for a name. Moving forward, we'll get into the other topics. But once again, my name is Jervin Trapp. This is what I think about renting. This is what I think about leasing. It's hot and cold, but I tell you, the best decision is going to be for you in your situation. Take my advice. No anxiety. Slow down. Read the documents. And always get your quote back. I'm going. Yeah.
I'm blowing stupid loud. I'm in the